Okay, good morning. New Siman Reish Chof Dalet. So this Siman is a very interesting Siman. It's all from the Gemara, pretty much, in Brachas stuff and Zayin, where it lists brachas for sort of unusual brachas, and then we get to the brachas of Roya Chachmei Yisrael. If you see the outstanding Talmud Chacham of the generation, or the Havdil of Chachmei U'Musa'Olam, and then we get to the brachas on a Melech. We'll see if we can get there today. Says the Mechaber, Harei Markulis. This is Sif Aleph. Harei Markulis, some sort of avodah zarah, Shar avodas kechavim. Oy mebarach ato Hashem l'kelim melech olam shenosen erech hapayim le'ovrei ritzonai. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu has patience for those who violate His will. You don't, if you've seen it already within 30 days, you don't go back and make the bracha again. Says the Ramah, why? Interesting, not what you and I perhaps would have said. Because we never go 30 days without seeing it. We're seeing it the whole time, so therefore we never sort of have the need to make this bracha. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Markulis, what is that? He avodas gelulim sha'ivdin oisa al yidei zeh shezorkin la'avonim. You throw stones towards this Markulis. That's the way of doing the avodah zarah. U'shmo ha'atzmo kilus. The actual name of the avodah zarah is actually kilus. Since you shouldn't say the name of the avodah zarah properly, lakach kinu oisa. There's a sort of a derogatory sort of alternative name that Chazal gave for it, b'shem kulis. Umar hu chiluf b'lashon Arami. It's like an exchanging. Upshuta perusha hu chiluf kiluf. It's like an exchange. If you look at number 1, he says the footnote 1. The Shulchan Aruch says in Yeridei Kuf Mem Zayin she'osa lahaska shem avodah zarah b'shmo. You're not allowed to say the name of the avodah zarah even properly. Bein letzarech, bein shelo letzarech, whether there's a need or without a need. Chutz mishemes halinu haksuv b'Torah. Apart from the avodah zarah which is written in the Torah, because after all the Torah says it. You sort of you make a nickname which is disparaging. V'kalsu ha'teisus in avodah zarah. Shemishum kach kinoi so kulis. We change it lashon la'ag vokeles. Yeah, we say in Tachanun lashon la'ag vokeles ben agoyim. So therefore we change it to that. Hepech mikilus hu lashon shevach, because kilus is lashon of praise. So we change it to that. Okay, base. Oisha avodas gilulim. I feel base avodas gilulim. Obach pirish dafka kasherei so begolui. When you see it sort of there, open, exposed, not sort of hidden away. Vo'idna, you don't make it, says the Ramah, because we're living, it's so familiar with us, to us. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Cotton Gimel, Shari Anu Royan Oisa Tomid. We see it the whole time. Because Vachrin Dafilu Helich Lira Cheres, V'Rosh Avodas Gilulim, Ein Mavarach. Even if you go to a different city and you see avodah zarah, you don't make a bracha. Given the Ra Esmin Zeh Techshleshim Be'iroi, because presumably in the last 30 days you saw it in your own city. What about a cotton? He becomes a gadol, so therefore he has a new chiyuv. He sort of rebooted his obligation. But still, we don't make a bracha. That cotton shehigdil doesn't make a bracha. Because he saw it when he was a kid, and therefore it's not new to him. Even if he didn't see it within 30 days, it's been 2 months, 3 months, he hasn't seen it. So since the whole world has seen it regularly, you don't make a bracha, which is interesting. Make sure you don't see their sort of celebrations. If you see these heathens worshipping avodah zarah who are rejoicing, you should groan at the tzal churban Yerushalayim and distress, feel tsar over the churban. But tispal HaKadosh Baruch Hu aleh and daven. Ve'issa b'gemara afilu helech l'kinos l'Torah shel Yisrael har ze Moshe v'leitzim. Even if you go to Jewish celebrations of the theaters and circuses and things like that, then that's considered a Moshe v'leitzim. Okay, base. If you see a place where avodah zarah has been uprooted from, if you're in Eretz Yisrael, then you make the following bracha: Baruch ato Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam she'okar avodas kechavim me'artzeinu. V'imhu b'chutz la'aretz omer she'okar avodas kechavim me'amakom hazeh. V'omer b'shtein, and on both of them you say kashem she'okar ta'osa me'amakom hazeh kein ta'akar osa mikol hamakomis v'hoshev leiv ovdeihem lo'ovdecha. That's the nusach of the bracha. When a sub it's sort of displaced. It went from place A to place B. And with the place where it's relocated, then you make the bracha shenosn erech hapayim. It says in Mishnah Berurah that afilu rak b'makom echad in Eretz Yisrael, even in one place. And in the place where it's relocated, so long again the normal rules. The chanal, you haven't seen it within the last 30 days. Okay, so that's, if you see a makom avodah zarah, that's the bracha you make. In Eretz Yisrael, different bracha to in chutz la'aretz, and if you see it sort of located, there are two brachas that you would make. Okay, Gimel. Haraya b'chol Bavel harashah. If a person sees the wicked seat of Bavel, Babylon is no longer, and therefore you can make that bracha. That's what Chazal were masakin. If you saw the palace or the house of Nebuchadnezzar, which Rashi says Kivshan Oish is Hainu HaChafir Shehusuk Bo also Eish Lechanani Mishal Vazaria. So we're talking about the fire, the cave of fire, the furnace that Chanani Mishal Vazaria were thrown into. Oime, you say the following: Baruch she'oson nisim letzadikim b'mokum hazeh. V'ayin elsim l'reshut ches zayin. Okay, so that's again all from the Gemara in Brachas. Ra Sif Dalet. Ra mokum sheyesh b'Bavel. Again, it's the Gemara Brachas there that there was a practice. Rashi explains shekol behema shetavar olav eina yechayla lozuz misham lo yidno leo me'efa hamokamahu. There was a rule that you couldn't, but an animal couldn't leave this location unless you put some earth from that location on the head of the animal. And it's considered a curse. Because it says there in the pasuk in Yeshaya, v'teya tesiha b'matateya pirush michbados habayis. Which means the pasuk means you swept them away with a broom that destroys. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to destroy it all. And therefore, if you see that, you say Baruch Omer v'Oiseh Baruch Goizer v'Makayim. That's the bracha because there's been a fulfillment because it's not there anymore. Bavel's not there, Nebuchadnezzar's not there, the Kivshan where Hanan, all of that's gone. So therefore, you come to the place where they would take the earth and they would put it on the head of the animal, then that's a siman klala, it's a fulfillment of that pasuk of tesiha b'mtateah. So I've swept them away and with a broom that destroys them. Says Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotzen Zayin, Baruch Omer v'Oiseh Hainu B'Shem v'Malchus. But Gemara Girsa Baruch Omer v'Oiseh Goizer Makayim. Okay, different Girsa in the Gemara. Okay, moving on. Now, this is a very interesting bracha. Sif Hey. Haraya Shishim Ribu Yisrael. If a person sees a huge amount of Jewish people, biyachad. Now, how much is that? Shishim Ribu is 600,000 Jews. Biyachad together, then you say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam Chacham Harozim. What is that? We'll see in Rashi in a second. If you see a massive gathering of non-Jewish people, then you say of the Avodah Zarah, then you would say Boisha Imchem Ma'id. That Imchem, your mother, is embarrassed of you. Because you've got a massive gathering of idol worshippers, and therefore that Chazal made a special bracha. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotzen Ches, what is this bracha of Chacham HaRozim? It's a very, very beautiful bracha. She'ein daitan doimen zeh lezeh. The godless of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is that he can see 600,000 people, and yet there still remain individuals. That's Pshat Chacham HaRozim. She'ein daitan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows the secrets of each person. She'ein daitan doimen zeh lezeh. Each person is different. Ve'ein partzufein doimen zeh lezeh. Each our facial features are different, our thoughts are different. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what's in the hearts of each of these 600,000 people. Okay, now Haraya is Vov. Now on to Chachmei Yisrael. Sif Vov. Haraya Chachmei Yisrael. Oime Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam Shecholak Mechachmosoi Lirev. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has sort of distributed some of His Chachma to those who fear Him. So it says in Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotten Tes, She'am Hashem Hem Chilek Eloika Udveikim Bo. We are part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and we're dovek to Him. Lakach Omar Shecholak, and therefore we make that bracha of Shecholak. Mashenkein Lekama B'Sif, because in the next one we say Hashem Nosam. Now, if you look in number 12, which is, I'll read it to you, but it's just at the back of the Sefer, number 12, he says something very interesting. Mistim es lashon hashulchan aruch v'poiskim. Hechiach b'shal shuv shevet halevi she'af bizman hazeh yesh levarich. Yeah, nowadays you make the bracha. V'hoisiv sham shekasher bo Baal hatzafnas paneach, when the Rogatchover came to Vienna, birchu olav shecholak. They made that bracha on the Rogatchover. V'chein muva b'urchas Rabbeinu, that the stipler would make the bracha on Gedei Yisrael. If I'm not mistaken, Chaim used to make it on Rav Shach every 30 days. He would make it. That's what I heard. And the Orach HaShulchan, however, says that nowadays we don't do it because how much do they need to know? How do you define a God of Israel? How do you know who is the big Talmud Chacham? However, the Gedolim seem to say that we do it. He says the Shal Yeshuva Shevet HaLevi says the Geder of a Chacham shemevarich on the love who mishem mekumen bnei adar u'manusam shechachmos u'chachmos ha'Torah amitis v'lo mibol lishma. The Geder is that he's accepted. Chal Yisrael have got like this antennae, we can smell out our Gedolim, and they're learning Torah lishma. V'hevi shebach mashma k'tzas shetzorich sheyeh boki gam b'Torah hanista. The Bach has a criteria; they need to be boki in Torah hanista. I remember being when Rabbi Steinman came to London. Do you remember he came about 10, 15 years ago? And someone stood up, one of the Roshivas in Gateshead stood up, it was a bigger sifa, and he said that he had a psak from Chaim that we all need to make the bracha, and he made the bracha on our behalves. It was very powerful. And Chaim was sitting there, he made the bracha out loud, we all said Amen. It was a very interesting, very nice to see it. Okay, let's carry on. That was Sif Vov. Now, that's Re'eh Chachmei Yisrael, you say the bracha shecholak mechachmosoi. Says Siv Zayin, Harei Chachmei Umas Ha'olam Ovdei Kechavim. If you see a brilliant person from the non-Jewish world, Shechachomim B'Chachmos Ha'olam, who is an expert in the wisdom of the wider world, Omer Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Ha'olam, Shenosan Mechachmosa Lebasav Adam. You make that bracha. Yeah, that's the bracha you make now. So if you look at Rashi, Mishnah B'Ramin, Siv Katan Yud B'Chachmos Ha'olam. It's not all wisdom. If you go to university today, there's lots of different courses you can do, but it's 7 specific wisdoms. We'll see in a second. Not if it's in theology or things like that, because on that you don't make a bracha. So if you look in number 13, he goes through what the 7 wisdoms are: cheshbon, shir, refuah, nigun, etc., etc. So it says there, it defines how you define a secular wise man. But either way, you make the bracha of Hashem Nosan. Now, the interesting discussion is, what if you get a Jewish chacham who's a brilliant, person in the secular world? So, for example, for Lahavdil, you have a Talmud Chacham, you make Asher Cholak Mechachmasa. You see one of the Gedolim. Great. If you see one of the Chachmei Umas Ha'olam, a non-Jewish person who's a brilliant, Nobel laureate of physician or, a chemistry award-winning scientist, then you can make on him. But what if you see a Jewish person who's, the Nobel laureate of the brilliant professor of chemistry? So if you look in 14, it says, Al Chacham Yisrael, She'ein Chacham Boki B'Torah LeB'Chachmas Ha'olam. Right? Our case, Kalsa B'Shar Shuvas Hiseres B'Tshuva, Hiseres Tshuva, She'yivarech She'cholak V'lei Shenosan. Interesting. Why? I don't know. Because it could be that because he's got Yiras Shamayim and he recognizes the source of the Chachmas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not sure. Okay. B'Sefer Birchas Habayis, Kasav she'ein levarech ha'chacham Yisrael ha'baki b'shar ha'chachamas, kimin she'ikah ha'chachmas Yisrael ha'chachmas ha'Torah, because the ikah chachma for a Jewish person is chachmas ha'Torah. So if he is not a chacham, a baki in Torah, but is a baki in other things, then you don't make the bracha on him. And therefore, he may be an expert in science or whatever, mathematics, cheshbon, but if he's not in Torah, then we can't call him a chacham properly. Okay. Agon Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky b'Sefer Emes Yaakov is topic b'Cholzeh, and there's a suffix about that. Now, what about you have a chacham Yisrael who's also a chacham in chachmas ha'olam? You can have that. Rav Belsky, for example, was an expert in science and things like that. Or Rav Soloveitchik was an expert. Rav Aaron Lichtenstein in English literature. And so, what if you have a person who's a chacham in Israel, who's a chacham also in chachmas ha'olam? So he says, "Histabek b'shar shuvas hiseres b'tshuva, Ha'im dai levarich alav bircha shecholak. Do you have to make one bracha, two brachas? Is it sufficient just to make one bracha shecholak? Kivin she'aTorah kredelis kol hachachmas, because everything ultimately is sourced in Torah. V'oid shecholak mechazon mashma shegam kol hachachmas. V'yitzorach levarich gam shenosan. So there's that sofek of what bracha you make. Okay, so just to summarize, that if a person sees certain avodah zarahs, markulius, there are certain brachas to make. You say the makom which avodah zarah once was and then it's been uprooted. There's also a bracha to make, or in the relocated place in the different brachas in Israel and Chutz La'aretz, you see Bavel which has been destroyed, or the house of Nebuchadnezzar. Again, there are brachas to make, or the Goy Varayas, the lion's den of where is in Sefer Daniel, and so too if you get to you see multitudes of Klal Yisrael, 600,000 people, 600,000 Yidden, then you make the bracha of Chacham HaRozim, and if you see the similar ones of Avodah Zarah, then there's also another bracha to make, and the bracha, the difference between Roeh Chachmei Yisrael and Chachmei Umas Ha'olam. For Chachmei Yisrael, Asher Cholak Mi Chachmasei, and for Chachmei Umas Ha'olam, then it's Asher Nosan Mi Chachmasei. Okay.